Hi, I'm Jeremy Kirk with Intel 471, and this is Happy Hunting, which is our threat hunting program. With me today is Lee Arkinall, who's Senior Threat Hunt Analyst. Welcome, Lee.
Thanks, Jeremy.
So today we're going to be talking about hunting for remote monitoring and management software, which is often referred to as RMM. These tools can vary in capabilities. Some are just remote access, while others are like a full suite of remote management tools. For the sake of simplicity in this video, we're just going to refer to all of them as RMM. You'll likely recognize some of the names of these applications, such as AnyDesk, Atera Agent, Mesh Agent, Net Support Manager, Quick Assist, ScreenConnect, SplashTop, and TeamViewer. So these tools are powerful and useful for administrators who do not have on-site access to machines. So they're frequently relied upon to distribute software updates for asset management, deploying software, endpoint troubleshooting, maintenance, among other features. And unsurprisingly, threat actors find these tools really useful as well. So they'll use them to gain access to networks, install malware, disable security features, escalate privileges. And because these tools are so integrated into IT workflows, it's often difficult to distinguish whether they're being used for malicious or legitimate activity. And they're often not going to be flagged as malware because they're not. They're commercial software products that are widely used. Now, this type of abuse with RMM software has been happening for many years. It continued throughout 2024. Oftentimes, threat actors will gain access to remote monitoring and management software that has already been installed by an organization. So they'll get the credentials for it, basically, and be able to log in and then use that software for their own means. Another avenue is that they'll trick people into downloading it. So a common scheme is to kind of pretend like they're part of the IT department. Hey, you need some updates for your machine. Can you download this software? They're not actually from the company. Victim downloads the software, and then the actors are off to the races. And in some cases, the attackers will create additional accounts. And so they'll have compromised creds for one account, and they'll create other accounts via that same software. So in case the credentials get revoked for that initial account. Threat actors use RMM software very much the same way as IT people do, mapping and looking at network assets. They use it to identify valuable assets. They may use it to identify other systems for which they want to try to get credentials from. They can launch ransomware attacks with it as well. It can be used for ransomware distribution, just like it would be distribution of other software programs. So to ensure, long-term access or facilitate additional malicious activities, they'll often install another remote access program. So they'll either compromise one and then go in and install another one that may be a little bit less visible on the system. So we're going to talk about a couple different recent examples of malicious activity around RMM software. This incident occurred around December 2024, and it involved AnyDesk, which is used for file sharing and collaboration and remote connections. In this campaign, the attacker posed as a known client on a Microsoft Teams call, so somehow got into the company Teams, convinced the victim to install AnyDesk, and then the attacker used that AnyDesk to install the DarkGate malware. In another brief example, threat actors gained access to a system by exploiting a vulnerability in Fortinet's for-client endpoint management system. They first installed ScreenConnect to gain remote access, and then they installed AnyDesk to secure persistence to the compromised system. So with that introduction, I'm going to turn it over to Lee, who's going to give an example of threat hunting for RMM software. Take it away, Lee.
So thank you as always, Jeremy, for that wonderful intel. And just like with threat hunting, the first step is always, what do we do with this intel and how can we operationalize it? So before we get hunting, let's talk about some quick wins. And really in this case, there is one major one that we can't ignore, but it's something that we can throw to the Security Operations Center or check in our environment that will let us know if this is even running in our environment in the first place. So before we would just jump straight to looking for AnyDesk executing from an abnormal location, the first thing I would do is to test and see if AnyDesk exists in my environment at all. The reason this would be a quick win is that if you're in an environment, or if you're a SOC analyst or a hunter, or your job is to look at logs and you say, well, hey, there's AnyDesk floating around. Let's take a look at it. Why not just jump straight in to see, does this exist? Is this even executing in my environment? And if it is, then you can ask yourself the question, do we allow AnyDesk, or is this blocked somewhere, or should this not be happening? If, for example, your company or organization is using, TeamViewer or Microsoft Quick Assist or something other than AnyDesk, this anomaly might trigger an investigation right away. So once you do have an idea of AnyDesk running in your environment, if this is a legitimate application that is used, then you have to deal with what we call false positives. This is where you are looking at your environment and you may see a lot of results saying, here's the process name, or the parent process name is AnyDesk. From there, you have to take a more targeted approach, not just saying all AnyDesk is bad. Now you have to pick out what actually is. So that's when you start looking for the behaviors or the suspicious or abnormal behaviors associated with the tool itself. What we can take a look at is, of course, this hunt package that we have, looking at AnyDesk Execution from abnormal folder, potential malicious use of the RMM tool. So once again, thinking about, yes, I've decided that this does exist in my environment. Now I have to figure out what that would look like and what I'm even thinking about hunting for. So if we go down to the query logic, what we see is we have our selections being process name being AnyDesk, process details, so that our product or the company is AnyDesk or AnyDesk software, and the common paths or the things that we're going to leave out are going to be it living in the app data location, downloads location, program files 86 or x86 or program files. Now you may be asking, well, that's kind of weird. Why would it, let's talk about app data. Sometimes when we download something or it's dropped on our machine, it lives in the app data local temp directory. If a user downloads it right away and just executes it there, as a standalone, this might be it just executing. And the program files or the program files x86, this is where if you would install AnyDesk, this is where it would kind of live. So there are multiple ways and the things we're looking for. But when you think about the common paths or looking for abnormal paths, more importantly, these are the things that we're not going to look at. Now, granted, this query can be tuned and modified to fit your organization. I know we include downloads and app data, but what if, say, you're in an organization and you say, we're going to watch things that execute from here? That might be a flag. Or you might have a well-oiled, security organization that says everything will be implemented in program files or program files x86. If you say it has to exist in that directory, then that app data or downloads directory might be, abnormal to you. But this is common. This is something common that we see, in the normal world. Now, we scroll up, check out our query. We're going to grab our Splunk. Drop down, as always, we're going to grab our fun sysmon query. Let's check out what that looks like in Splunk. So now that we're here, first thing I always like to mention, or always do, is read the data first, see what it's telling you, see if it matches up. So the first thing we're looking for, of course, is the AnyDesk process executing. In this first case, we see it's executing from the user's public music directory, which is a common directory that adversaries like to abuse. Maybe not specifically the music, but they use public directory because not a lot of people store things there. Not a lot of people will put their documents or their executables here because we all have our own users documents directory. So this user's public directory is used, or I should say abused commonly because no one checks it. So we hit that, and then we'll take a look at the query itself. So looking at the image not in, it's those values or the common process paths that we excluded to say, hey, you know what? This is common within environments. And once again, if not, just delete it. At that case, we're taking a look at the data. So right now, our data matches the query. So we know the logic is on point. We know we're getting the data that we expect to see because user's public directory is not listed here. It is still image equals AnyDesk. And now from here, we're going to continue our hunt. Yeah,
I have a question for you, Lee. So could you modify that query too to say, like, I only have TeamViewer running in my environment, and rather than the image equal, anydesk.exe, be able to add in the executables for, some of the other ones that I mentioned earlier, remote monitoring, and just do one full sweep to try to see if there's any of those applications rather than maybe doing separate queries for each one?
So you absolutely could. But the one instant or the nuance that you would get is that each of these tools actually have different behaviors associated with them and where they land or they like to operate with. So what might happen and this is just theoretical, is that you start to build and build this query that it gets bigger and bigger, and if your logic starts to get a little muddled, or you put an or an and where it shouldn't be, then you might disrupt the data itself, which could lead to wasted time in an investigation. Trying to link, well, did I say AnyDesk shouldn't run from here, or TeamViewer should always run from here? Whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
But it's definitely possible.
Gotcha. Thank you.
No, not a problem. But once we've identified that the data is returned and it matches the logic and matches the intent of the query itself, the next step is in your hands. So you got to follow those process chains, see what these tools are doing, see what processes they're spawning, and really, that's where it all kind of opens up. Because between attackers, they like to use behaviors that work, but they're not always going to use the same thing. So it's taking, it's in your hands from the threat hunting side and leveraging your expertise to see what happens next.
And just as a path of investigation then, Lee, like if you did find AnyDesk, operating from that user's public music directory, then what would the next step be? Trying to see if there's logging enabled on AnyDesk to see what the attacker did, or what would be, I guess, the common next step then to take for an investigator?
So a common next step, honestly, so whenever I come across tools like these or other, I like to lump these into like file transfer tools as well, like rclone, SFTP. If you think about the nature of the application, AnyDesk is normally going to need a network connection. It's going to create processes. If it is maliciously being used, you can think about lateral tool transfer. So are they dropping next stage payloads? Are they running commands that will create a file down the road for like discovery? But those are the things that, we want to keep in the back of your mind, is the absolute like true nature of the tool. AnyDesk, it's gonna reach out. You can check network connections to see who it's connecting to, where that path is going. You can even look at, once again, files being created. Are they creating files in the user's public music directory that it was found in? Or, don't be specific with the directory. Just say, is AnyDesk creating any files? That can lead you down the road to find, hey, we saw it create this file. What did it do with it next, and so on. That's great. That's the kind of mindset I like to be in.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hey, no problem. Always good questions from the great Jeremy Kirk. But that's a wrap for this Happy Hunting episode, where we took a closer look at RMM abuse and how adversaries use tools like AnyDesk to maintain access. Don't forget to sign up for your free Hunter 471 community account to enhance your threat hunting skills. With your free account, you'll gain access to AnyDesk Execution from Abnormal Folder, potential malicious use of RMM tool Hunt Package, helping you track suspicious RMM activity in your own environment. For more updates and insights, be sure to catch the next episode. Stay safe, and as always, happy hunting.